Welcome everyone. We'll be getting started in just a minute or two. Just letting people get logged in and get situated before we kick it off. But before we get started, again, my name is Armando and I'm with VIP Digital Media. We are a local-based Houston internet marketing company, and I'm very excited to be bringing to you today this webinar entitled "Think Social Media is Just for Kids, Not Business." Well, think again. Learn the 7 secrets to how the smartest Main Street businesses, just like yours, are using social media to crush their competition. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rolling. Just a couple of logistics before we get started. Before we get started, I will be sending you access to this recording, so there's no need for you to take intense notes. Again, you'll be able to. You'll be receiving a link. You can just click on it and watch the webinar as many times as you like. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email, or you can pick up the phone and give me a call. I have no problem carving out some time out of my schedule to be able to talk with you in further detail on how you can use social media to build your business, and of course to have an advantage against your competition that are not using it. Again, hello again, my name is Armando and I'm with VIP Digital Media, and today I've got the great pleasure to be talking to you about social media marketing, specifically how your business can leverage 7 secrets to experience greater success and boost your overall profitability, and of course crush your competition. Now we got a lot of greater content today, so we'll definitely let's go ahead and get started. First of all, what is exactly social media? Well, let's get on the same page here and make sure we're using the same, definition. Here's one that I use. Social media marketing is the use of social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to promote products, events, services, pursue branding goals, increase buyer awareness, reach and engage buyers in the most effective way possible, and of course, more importantly, drive more business. Now, many of you may still think that social media is just for kids, to play around with, but in fact, it's one of today's most powerful business tools. And in this presentation, we hope to make that clear. Now, again, I'd like to address, the main question of who cares right up front. Now, if you registered for this webinar, the chances are pretty good that you have some idea of why social media is important. But as I said, there may be some skeptics in the audience today who still need convincing. The stats on this slide and the next one should help. As you can see, everyone and their family has a profile on one or more of these social networks. Facebook alone is coming up on 1 billion users, which makes it almost the third largest country on the planet and twice the size of the entire population of the United States. Not only does the site of Facebook have this many users, they have a lot of very engaged users, and that's a totally different ball game. We as Americans spend an ungodly amount of time on social networking sites. We've spent over 50 billion minutes on Facebook in 2011, and that was just in May alone. I'm going to pause for a second here and let's just think about that for a few seconds. In case you don't have your calculator handy, that is literally over 3 hours for every man, woman, and child in the US. Here's a nice chart showing how quickly social media is growing in general and how unbelievably dominant Facebook has become with people across the globe. 310 million daily unique visitors. Amazing. That's a lot of eyeballs. The question is, can they see you? When it comes to social media and business, there's certainly some controversy. I don't think I've heard anything in business debated more on the criteria of time suck versus ROI more than social media. And you can generally hear two extreme viewpoints. The naysayers, who say, or the naysayers, and of course the Pollyanna narrative. Let's start with the naysayers. Naysayers say that social media is a fad. They say it's overblown. They say it's just for kiddos. They say with a kind of negative attitude that social media has no place in business. If they do engage social media at all, it's just to kick it to the intern or to the boss's teenager to manage. Now, on the other extreme, you have the social media Pollyannas. For this, cohort, social media is the answer to everything. They believe it's the magic pill, the silver bullet, the golden ticket. It's the answer to every question. But reality is, let's get real here. Both sides, the naysayers and the Pollyannas, are too simplistic in their thinking. It's my bias that the Pollyannas are closer to the mark than the naysayers, and luckily for us, we have data that supports that position. Now, each of these stats strongly support that social media does in fact have a place in business. The reality is that social media is a potent weapon that works, but it's not the only one you should be using, and it needs to be wielded in some with some kind of skill in order for it to be effective. A big reason to get involved in social media is that you have to do it to stay relevant. Your buyers expect it. And if you fall short of their expectation, they'll most likely gonna spend their time and money with the other guy down the street. Now let's look at these stats. Buyers want to interact with brands on social media sites. You can either join a conversation or you can let your competition do all the talking. It's going to be up to you. But most important to mention is that buyers reward brands that have a presence on a variety of social networks. People want to talk about your brand, so your responsibility is to talk with them and give them a reason to say great things about you to their friends and followers. And as you can see on the left with Twitter followers and on the right with Facebook followers, both groups are actively using social media to mention and refer others to the brands that they like. So, what are the ways that your businesses will benefit from social media? One, you can increase engagement with your prospects and customers. Two, you can boost brand awareness in a cost effective way. Three, you can drive buyers to your website where they can engage with your content and click the all important buy button now. Four, you can grow your opt in list, right? And a healthy opt in list email list is a must have in today's business climate. Number five, ultimately, all this means that you can build your influence, demonstrate your authority, and attract fans who will use their influence to promote your message. Additional benefits could include promoting events and special offers, right? Finding new customers, addressing negative PR in a timely fashion, and ultimately using all of this to increase customer loyalty. Now, of course, as with anything worth doing, there are going to be some legitimate challenges that you should be aware of. Identifying these challenges is essential. You'll be able to avoid a lot of frustration if you have a clear picture of what you're trying to get into. Here are some of the top challenges that businesses face with social media. Number one, overcoming culture resistance. People have a strong opinion about sites like Twitter and Facebook. If you launch a social media program at your business, you might likely encounter some pushback with some of your team members, but you'll need to be prepared to work through that. Number two, finding the resources to maintain a consistent effort. This is a huge major challenge for a lot of small businesses or enterprises which are typically, short-staffed. Number three, the third challenge is just getting started. Getting into social media can be intimidating and overwhelming. With so many social media landscapes, it's a strange and foreign country with different norms and customs. Not to mention that the internet is constantly evolving and changing, and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, YouTube, and Foursquare and Dig. I mean, there's so many sites that they're constantly changing their actual website themselves. So every day there's some change that's happening on the sites. Number four, measuring the return on investments can be tricky. It's not impossible to be sure, but it's not always straightforward either. And it's not to say that it isn't great, ROI with, social media. Calculating it, however, can require some know-how. Number five, the last challenge is one of organization and discipline. To be effective, you have to have both. Social media programs don't run themselves, and they will run all over you if you let them. These challenges are totally, surmountable. If they weren't, I wouldn't be talking to you today. I wouldn't be encouraging you to get involved. But I thought it was my duty to speak candidly to you and not sugarcoat anything. Okay, enough, preamble. Let's dive right into the 7 ways you can use social media to dominate your sandbox. Number one, you gotta go where your people are. Seems like a reasonable idea, doesn't it? Well, your people are on YouTube, they're on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn, they're on Facebook. They may be on one or they may be on all of them. This is different by audience and by industry. And as long as this is the case, you need to meet them where they're at. Find the network or networks that are most relevant to your market and create a presence. And be disciplined enough not to spend time in places where your audience isn't. Just because they are on the latest and greatest social media site, that's how social media becomes a low, ROI time suck. But look, no matter what industry you are in, no matter what product you sell, no matter how old your customer is, they are on social media and they are growing increasingly fast. Don't deny this with the classic, well, my customers don't use social media. That's just simply not the truth, if it ever was. Most business owners typically use that as sort of like a knee-jerk reaction, but they really don't know. They haven't really taken the time to evaluate their marketplace properly to know if their market is actually using social media. Number two, you want to be proactively cross-pollinating. What I mean by this is that you need to use your offline and offline efforts to implement and boost each other. They will be more than effective when you use them together. On the left is an example of table tents that you'll find in a restaurant, a great way to promote your social media presence. In the middle is someone else's email signature with their social sharing icons. Most businesses send hundreds of emails each day. You might as well get the social benefit from them. And finally, on the right is an example of a retail store using a simple sign to encourage people to find them on Foursquare. As you can see, this doesn't have to be complicated or fancy, but it needs to get done. Number three, you need to set up a fan gate. What the heck is a fan gate? It's when you display certain content only to users who like your page. It's all about encouraging non-fans to become fans. Let me show you how. Here's an example of a fan gate from my favorite soda brand. As you can see, they are using a red arrow to encourage you to click the like button in Facebook, with the incentives of being able to see what's behind the curtain. That's a fan gate, and it's proven to really ramp up your fan base. Okay, number four is to use your social media presence to collect email addresses. As I've always said, you should build your list every single day. Well, you can add an email opt-in form to your social media site to build your list of email addresses from visitors. Again, the best way to do this is to offer some sort of incentive, as you can see being done on this cross shoes page on Facebook. Number five, run social media promotions, contests, and sweepstakes. Remember that earlier stat. People want to engage with brands online. Seriously, 85% expect companies to interact with them, via social channels and engage customers. And engaged customers buy more. Here's an example of a promotion from Sony. In this case, they give away products for free to a lucky fan every single day. And as you can see by the number of fans they have and the number of people talking about this promotion, it's definitely working. There are a lot of creative ways to do promotions like this. Number six, this one is so important. Social media is where people connect. So show your peopleness. I know peopleness isn't a word, but making up words is something you should start to embrace because that's what people do on social media. It has its own weird vocabulary. The more personable and warm you can be online, the more response and engagement you're going to get from your customers and prospects. So be yourself. Have a consistent online and offline persona, and don't be too formal, unless, of course, you are formal. In short, you want to be yourself. Number seven, diversify. You know the saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Consider using multiple social media sites. Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn are obvious choices, but YouTube and Pinterest are great options that are, experiencing crazy growth. Again, you don't need to be everywhere. You shouldn't be everywhere, but you do need to be where your audience is. Now, if you have seen our SEO webinar, or if you haven't, part of having a social media presence also is going to boost your search engine marketing presence as well, because a lot of the search engines, not only are they looking for content linking back to your site, but they're also seeing what, they also want to know what the social, fear is also saying about you too as well. They want to know what people are saying about you. So again, they just feel it's unnatural to have 10,000 links pointing back to your site, but no one talking about you. That's just not good social media. Finally, as a bonus, social networks offer an incredible opportunity to advertise in a really pinpointed, targeted way that's way more cost effective than any other advertising channel today. Every major social site now has an advertising platform, and you really can't fully comprehend their power until you get there and run a campaign or two. The ability to target and speak to your specific audience is absolutely unrivaled in any other advertising option out there. Every business should be taking advantage of this. Again, okay, so those are the 7 secrets of social media success, plus the one bonus secret just to make sure you get the full picture. Okay, now let's change gears just a little bit and talk about some of the most commonly asked questions and concerns that businesses may have about implementing social media marketing. This is the big one. How much time will I need to spend each week on social media? Well, it's going to depend, but these stats should give you hope that it won't take as long as you think. According to the same social media examiner study, 75% of businesses saw increased website traffic with just 6 hours per week devoted to social media management. This doesn't have to be your full-time job. Next, how much time will I need to invest in social media before I begin to see a payoff? This question is hard to answer with total precision here for obvious reasons. But according to a study commissioned by Social Media Examiner, 25% of brands saw new partnerships form almost right away. And of course, the remaining 80% of brands did see some new partnerships develop, but over a few years. So social media can create new opportunities rather quickly. Now, okay, so which social media platforms should my business be using? Here are some ways to pick some social media sites. Look at what your buyers are saying, at what your competitors are using, and again, use a social media network search function to get a quick and dirty read on what your target market is actively doing on a given site. But lastly, to reiterate an earlier point, consider using multiple social media channels. Now, a great question that most businesses have is, how can I avoid the mistakes that other businesses have made? Here are 5 principles that you can follow. Number one, you want to have a plan. Number two, you don't want to be obsessed though. This may seem to contradict the first principle, but the point here is to find a happy medium between planning and organizing. So that way you can have more of a spontaneous and naturalness in terms of, the plan and executing. This isn't always easy at first, but it's the goal that you should strive for. Number three, you want to engage with the audience. Don't just use social media as a pulpit. You know, four, make sure to listen as much as you talk. And number five, don't just hand over your social media program to just anybody, specifically, the daughter's boss or an unpaid, college intern. You need to treat this like a real business advertising campaign that is being seen by the world. Okay, so maybe this isn't technically a frequently asked question, but it's a question that all businesses should ask because there are multiple ways to measure the efficiency of your social media campaign. One thing I want to stress is that social media has value beyond its sales. It's also great for promoting word of mouth, strengthening the ties you have with your customers, and adding value to your products and services. Granted, these things can be hard to measure, but that doesn't mean they are any less important. Okay, let's start to wrap things up here, and I want to close with the following point. Social media isn't going anywhere. There's a conversation happening online, and more and more people are joining in. So the key is you want to start a conversation and get people involved. Consider that over half of Twitter users talk about, or recommend brands in their tweets. What's more, the average consumer mentions brands over 90 times per week in their conversations. You really should be part of that conversation, right? And so you can do this, and we're here to help. If you need any assistance in, planning or executing your social media presence, we'd be honored if you, consider giving us, consider us as a resource and getting in touch with us. So with that being said, we've this is the end of the presentation, and I hope this has been helpful. And I really appreciate the time that you've taken out your busy schedule to, connect with us today on this webinar. Again, in this webinar or the email, I'm going to make available our website that you can go to and get more information, and of course our email. You'll be able to shoot me an email and ask me any questions that you have directly, and of course, our phone number. So that way, if you just want to pick up the phone, give us a call. We look forward to being able to speak with you soon and answer any of your questions. With that, this is Armando. Speak to you soon.